For the next step, I create an app called Provider Overview 02. The Provider Overview 02 app needs a provider package, so I installed the provider in the pubspec.yaml file. And in the analysis options.yaml file, like the Provider Overview 01 app, I will comment out include line so that the lint rule is not applied. Let's see how the widget tree of the Provider Overview 02 app is through the image. The Provider Overview 02 app is very similar to the Count app we just saw. It separates the widgets that would normally have been combined into one. The reason for the separation is to see how we can easily access data in the widget tree using Provider. If you look on the left, there is a class called dog. Let's see how this dog class's instance can be accessed from multiple places in the widget tree, and how much simpler it is compared to passing data through the widget's constructor. My homepage consists of a text widget that displays the dog's name and a breed and age widget. The breed and age widget consists of a text widget that displays the breed and an age widget. The age widget consists of a text widget that displays the age and an elevated button that increases the age. First, I will create the models folder under the lib folder and I'll create a file called dog.dart. Let's create the dog class and create three variables. I'll create name to store the dog's name, breed to store the dog's breed, and age to store the dog's age. I'll create a constructor using the generic constructor of the .data class generic extension. I will give the default value of age as 1. So I will delete required and give the value of this age as 1. We'll change the age variable later, so delete final. The provider provides an easy way to access the dog instance to widgets that need a dog instance. In the main.dot file, we have created the basic skeleton of the widget tree as shown in the image. So I will explain it while looking at the code. The title is Provider 02, give false to hide the debug banner, and delete my homepage, which is by default a stateful widget when created in the Count app, and then I recreated it as a stateless widget. The title of app bar is given Provider 02, and for the body, it is a center widget with a column widget as a child. For the main axis alignment, give a center so the children are displayed on the center of the screen. And for main axis size, give min so that the size of the column widget only occupies as much space as the size of the children. The first child of the column widget is a text widget, which will display dog instance's name later. Give the breed and age widget after giving a height 10 size box to make space between the two widgets. The breed and age widget returns the column widget in the build function. And the first child is a text widget to display the breed of dog. Give the age widget after giving a height 10.0 size box to make space between the two widgets. The age widget returns the column widget, and the first child is a text widget to display the dog's age. Even though there is only one child, I made it into a column because I'm going to add a button here later. But in the first example, the necessary data and functions were passed through the constructor. I said that Provider provides a much more convenient way than having to pass the data and functions through a constructor, but you need to take some kind of action to do so. First, we will wrap a widget that needs the dog instance with a Provider widget. My homepage needs the dog instance, breed and age needs the dog instance, and age needs the dog instance too. However, the wrap position must be located above the widget that needs dog instance in the widget tree. It should be noted here that the provider itself is also a widget, which means that the provider exists in the widget tree. But you need to pay attention to the word above. I'll explain the details related to what you need to pay attention to later. The provider's constructor has an argument called create, which is the only required property. In create callback, create the docs instance that the widgets need. Provider's child widget can access the object returned by the function passed to create. Before applying the provider, let's check the current state of the app. In the middle of the screen, placeholders for name, breed, and age are displayed. Wrap the material app with a doc type provider. And in create callback, we will create a doc instance where the name is son, the breed is bulldog, and age is 3. If we do this, we can access the doc instance from any widget on the material app. The text widget that displays doc name is a child widget of the provider widget. Because of this, we can access the doc instance. Provider has a static function called of. This of function traverses the widget tree upward to find and give the desired type of instance. So you need to give the of function the type of instance you want to find. So how do we find doc type instance? After calling provider.of and giving the doc type, give context as the argument of the of function. The reason we give context is because we use context to navigate the widget tree upward. This means provider.of doc context provides the doc class's instance. Therefore, doc instance name can be accessed through provider.of doc context.name. Similarly, the text widget that displays the doc breed is also a child widget of the provider widget. Because of this, we can access the doc instance. Using the same method we just used, we can access the doc instance's breed property. If we didn't use a provider, my homepage widget would have needed to pass the doc instance to the breed and age widget through the constructor. Similarly, the text widget that displays the doc age is also a child widget of the provider widget. Because of this, we can access the doc instance. Using the same method we just used, we can access the doc instance's age property. If we didn't use a provider, my homepage widget would have needed to pass the doc instance to the breed and age widget, then breed and age to age widget through the constructor. Now let's run this in this state. Everything is displayed properly. Without provider, you would have to pass the doc instance to the breed and age widget one by one, but there was no need to do so here. It became a lot more convenient. However, I put the type called doc in brackets, like a provider.of doc context. I said before that the provider climbs up the widget tree and finds that instance. When it does that, you need to tell them what you're looking for. The what is the type. So here I told it to find the doc type. In other words, this means go up the widget tree, find an instance of the doc type, and give it to me. If there are two instances of the same type in the widget tree, the one that the provider finds and gives to me is the one closest to me in the widget tree. This means that you can't access the instance further away through the provider. We'll talk about this again later. In summary, provider provides the t-type instance to widgets located under the provider through provider.of context. But this isn't much fun. It's just sharing data. Let's change the doc class a bit. Add a void type grow function. The grow function increments age by 1 and prints the incremented age value. And let's add a button to the age widget. First, give the size box of height 20.0. Create an elevated button. In onPressed of the button, call the doc instance's grow function using the provider. For the button title, give grow with font size 20.0. The grow function is also a member of the doc instance, so you can access it through provider.of. Now let's do a hard restart and tap the button. An error has occurred. A very detailed message was displayed in the debug console. What this error means is that the button doesn't need to be rebuilt even if any value changes, but it did. So stop the rebuild by giving listen false. It's something like that. Let's give false to the listen argument of the provider.o function. Then do a hard restart and click the grow button. The value printed in grow increases, but the increased value is not reflected on the screen. This is similar to when we change the value of a variable and then it's not reflected on the screen because we do not call setState. Why does it do that? This is because there is nothing telling the Flutter framework to draw again because the value changes. To rephrase it, you must call setState after changing the data for the Flutter framework to render. Then, how would you do that in Provider? Let's find that out now.